Materials are the lifeblood of balancing and vigor, or at least they should be. But for many players, the days of fearing that one may run out of materials have been long gone, their material count climbing to higher and higher values. So what happened to this once great balancing factor that at one point even brought the ADR to its knees? What is the state of materials and vigor right now? And that is what I will be covering in today's video. So let's get right into this. First, we should try to create a basic understanding and really just review how materials work in Vigor in case there's any sources of confusion. Materials are used to produce weapons, consumables, and ammo. Their cost, the amount of materials you need to use to produce these items, depends on their rarity, with more powerful items having greater cost, and it really being used as a theoretical deterrence from overusing an item, as it will cost a lot to your material count and really just push you away from it. This is how you balance with materials, in theory at least. Materials are in turn produced from deconstructing excess item and from producers located in your shelter, as well as a little bit of random loot that you get in crates. You sometimes can get materials from those. This concept of balancing really, in theory, doesn't sound horrible, with materials being the defining factor of what rarity means in this game, and then being provided to you either through kills or through passive generation or through deconstruction of excess. All of that really not being horrible ways to produce materials, and all in all, it's a decent theory. However, it doesn't work. The theory doesn't hold up. So what really went wrong? Well, to start, I'm going to have to ask a simple question. How many of you guys still actually craft weapons? Weapon crafting, which was once a mildly popular thing that most people did in the earlier days of Vigor, is largely gone from most modern players' list of importance. This isn't saying that no one crafts weapons anymore, but is more so saying that the importance of this crafting has been greatly reduced. People aren't crafting to use weapons, they're more so crafting to maintain their weapons. So really, the stockpiles of weapons that most players have now, having hundreds of weapons and no real worry, no real gear fear, has given them a reason to not craft. If I have hundreds of AKs, I don't really need to craft an AK every round. Second, crates and loot POIs now provide a lot more weapons than they used to back in the day, giving an easy place to resupply should those stockpiles begin to run low. And third, the ability to loot the items from the enemies you kill really is something that's going to make it so in the end, your encounters are going to be able to resupply your materials mostly of what you lose. Finally, the long craft times of the weapons that people actually want to craft make them too much work to really make crafting valuable. So for a lot of players, it's just simpler to run a weapon that you have stockpiles of, kill players in encounters, and steal their weapons, rather than, crafting relying on the crafting system to define what weapons you're using. So if nobody's really crafting weapons, then that gets rid of a lot of the original purpose of the material economy. However, it doesn't really stop here. Its worthless nature is further reinforced by the material reimbursement system. I've made an entire video on this in the past, and I am a strong person that is against it. I very much despise this system. I think it goes completely against the whole, risk-reward that Vigor is so based in. But that video, I'm going to summarize really quick here, but if you want to watch the whole thing, I will link it below. When you die in Vigor encounters, you actually receive a material payout equal to the percentage of the gun's deconstruction value and all of the material resources and ammo you looted. So basically, if I run out there with an AK, I pick up an SVU with ammo, I'm actually going to gain more materials than I spent on the AKM, even if I die. This system spits in the face of the risk-reward of Vigor, for even if you die while stacked with loot, you practically get a payout regardless, so there's no real loss. You can die and it doesn't matter. These concepts both have destroyed the value of materials. Both of them, if you think about it, one is making it so you don't really need them to craft anymore because you have enough weapons that you don't need to craft. And the other one's making it, even if you use materials, you have piles of it because you're getting resupplied based off how much you do in encounters. But one thing above those two has murdered the system so hard that it's really hard for it to come back, which is the inflation of materials that occurred during duping. Items that were previously rare and hard to get, that cost a large amount of materials, have become widespread, allowing even those who didn't dupe to get far more than intended resources. Any player who played during this time likely has a massively higher material count, way above any other group of player. And this is because the excess supplies that were thrown into the economy by duping never really went away. If someone dupes and creates hundreds of H-bars, if you kill them, you are getting materials that shouldn't really be in the material economy into your shelter. And that's not really saying that you did something wrong. It's more so that this inflation of materials has made materials worth pretty much nothing because people duped so much that they created so much excess that it's just sitting, bouncing around in the Vigor game economy. And really just because it never has gone away, and we all murder each other, as I said earlier, you get a lot of loot from murdering each other. If this economy is overinflated, meaning you can run weapons that are normally much rarer, but because they're not as rare because of duping in the past, then people can kill you, take your weapons, and make it less rare for them as well. I could, if you guys want, make a separate video further explaining this concept, but I think that was an apt explanation. So returning to the original question, do materials really hold any purpose anymore? And really, no, they don't hold any major purpose, but there is something minor they still do, and that is they prevent new players from being able to rapidly catch up to the top tier. While the top tier players have no more material fear, these new players cannot really share this sentiment. I went heavily into the problems of being a new player in my video odds, or the odds are against new players, but the material problem doesn't help, meaning that even if a player gets their hands on a powerful Suomi plan, they may not have the materials to run it and will instead be forced to stick around with VZ50 APs until they figure out how to win POIs against the much stronger players, or until they have no more material fear. So if materials have no real balancing purpose and more so stand as a minor roadblock to new players that they have to grind through to make it something irrelevant, then it's clearly not doing its original purpose. So how do we fix this? How do we make this system something usable again? Well, to be honest, I don't know, as the inflation of the material economy due to duping at least is likely unfixable. The community is violently against a wipe, and they've been that way since 1.0. So we can't exactly, pull Tarkov and wipe. And because we can't wipe, you can't really get rid of that excess. At least not easily. That excess is going to be sitting around in the Vigor economy likely forever, and there's not much you can really do. We could try a buyback system, trying to buy back the excess, to purchase the materials from those with extras or the guns with extras. However, there's no real promise this would work, and it wouldn't really fix the giant gun stockpiles unless we started buying the gun stockpiles, and then what are we trading it for? Like, what are we buying it back for? Are we giving crowns? I don't think the devs would be okay with forking over thousands of crowns to people with massively inflated material counts that's likely due to duping. And really, this is where the fine line is of how, you can't really do a buyback system because maybe they're not even going to invest in it. And maybe it won't even be something that actually ends up working, and maybe it's just a waste of time. We could get rid of the material system, but what could we replace it with? Really, how can we replace materials? That would require a lot of work, and it wouldn't even matter since it currently doesn't do much, and replacing the system to make it do something most likely won't fix many of the, it's not causing any major problems either. It's not really good or bad, it's just kind of irrelevant. And adding a new system might actually make it something bad, which could hurt the community and not really help the game. All in all, materials feels like yet another system of Vigor that's faded completely into irrelevance. And how we could possibly repair its importance is a question we should be considering as a community. But frankly, at this moment, I don't have the answer. I think it will require a lot of conversation and speculation among the community to really come to a conclusion of what we should do next with materials. If you'd like to be part of that conversation, I will have links to my Discord in the description, like always, is VSL, and you're open to talk about it in any of the chats there. I would love to see some dialogue begin to move on this, on what steps we could possibly take to begin getting materials relevant again. But this has been Christopher Beast, and these are mainly my opinions. If you disagree, I'd love to hear why in the comments section. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you guys see what points I made. And if not, have a good rest of your day, and I hope to see you all next time.